in the scientific and civil engineering literature, even for open hydroelectric power plants, so forth. These things can be like 1,000 feet long, hundreds of feet tall, a couple hundred feet wide. And I was just talking about this with him, and he mentioned to me a mine that he was aware of, where gradually the mountain was hollowed out inside. The intent originally was not to do that, but over the decades, as the mineral-bearing rock was excavated, at the end there was a cavity that remained that, according to him, was on the order of over 1,000 feet tall, a couple of thousand feet long, and like 500 or 600 feet wide. In other words, a cavity underground inside a mountain here in the United States that was wide enough to have accommodated the entire World Trade Complex and its towers before they collapsed notoriously on September 11th, 2001. But what he was telling me is, Richard, open wide the doors of perception in your mind and understand that the technology exists to make vast, enormous caverns underground, and by implication you could put anything in them that you want. And that's using just ordinary off-the-shelf conventional mining technology.
That's really pretty interesting stuff. I should counter that by just telling an interesting story about what I was told here in Switzerland, that Kerry and I encountered the entrance to an underground base in Switzerland, which didn't look like it went down a whole mile, but it certainly went into the underground, into the side of a hill. And it was disguised as an old barn. It was absolutely wonderful. It was all abandoned, and there was a big road going down there, and there were kind of these big doors that looked like they would open up and take.
And actually, there's a million of those all over the Swiss countryside. You can see them as you drive by in the mountainsides. I mean, doors going into mountains everywhere.
Yes, the buzz about Switzerland is that the Alps are tunneled out like Swiss cheese. And I would also say the Scandinavians, in particular the Norwegians and the Swedes, are also very expert underground excavators, and there have been quite a lot of impressive underground facilities and bases made in Scandinavia. And so this is, and the Japanese as well. I mean, I understand that Tokyo is pretty well tunneled out the same way that Washington, D.C. is. And in fact, many of the major cities around the world have elaborate underground labyrinths beneath them that just go down and down and down. Some components of these subterranean labyrinths are open to the public, like underground shopping malls, the subways, and pedestrian walkways and things like that. But I'm coming to understand that many large cities, and perhaps all of them, have these underground labyrinths with different layers of security. And if you're one of the cognoscenti, if you're initiated, then you know the passwords and which buttons to press, which doors to open, and which doors lead where to go and where not to go. That's certainly true of Washington, D.C., New York City, Moscow.
And you're listening to Whistleblower Radio. Okay, Bill has some things to read out loud here, some numbers that we're getting from one of our secret witnesses. So go ahead, Bill.
Well, I just got a Skype message from somebody who gave us what looks like a longitudinal latitude, and we're not even in a position to check this out on air here. So if anyone there listening has got access to Google Earth, check this one out. It's -5 degrees 70 minutes and 39 degrees 27 minutes. And I will read that again. It's -5 degrees 70 minutes and 39 degrees 27 minutes, and apparently this is something that is connected with Project Lacrosse. This is all we know. We don't know anything more than that. So somebody can phone in and tell us about it. All right.
Okay, we've got a bunch of callers on here, and Richard, we're gonna take calls now. So if that's okay with you.
Go ahead.
Great, and a lot of these people may be wanting to talk to you, so I'm just going to grab the first one here, which is area code 254. You're on the air with Project Camelot.
Hello?
Area code 254. You're on the air with Project Camelot.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
All right, great. Hey guys, this is Brandon from Texas. I tuned in kind of late, and I thought I heard you mention that Dan Burrish was saying that the dollar will not fall.
That's correct.
Could you explain that real quick?
Well, what I suggest is you go into the archives and listen to the show, but real briefly, because rather than repeat everything we did in the first half hour. Basically, in looking at the timelines, as a probability in the future, they're saying that the dollar will not fall, and we are also talking about the side, he's working for the side that is about saving the United States, not letting it go down, which is the Illuminati plot against the United States, and it has to do with the dollar going under. So we're going to go to the next caller, but thanks a lot.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you're on the air. Area code 204.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, hi Carrie, Bill, and Dr. Sauder. It's Gabriel calling from Winnipeg.
Hello,
I have two quick questions, if that's all right.
Sure, go ahead.
First question is for Dr. Sauder. Is he with us still?
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned earlier many locations for these bases. I'm just wondering if there have been any reports of strange phenomena associated with the locations. I know you mentioned Site R earlier.
Sure. I think the most famous one would be the UFO sightings that have happened in Coyote Canyon, immediately adjacent to the well-known underground facility, Monsanto Base, associated with the Kirtland Air Force Base and Sandia National Laboratory installation on the outskirts of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And there have been others. One of the most, a more obscure one is a UFO abduction that took place on a highway just north of Boulder in 1980, just a few miles north of Boulder. That is in very close proximity to a very less well-known underground facility beneath Table Mountain, which is run by the U.S. Department of Commerce. It is a so-called radio quiet zone, and there are a lot of very interesting electronics and electromagnetic facilities there, antennas on the top, and laboratories and electronic gear underground. So yes, there have been. There are a number of reports like this. And of course, there's the example of my friend, who is a lifelong abductee by a male reptilian who was taken for reasons that she has never understood, and she's never been told why, and was taken deep underground beneath the White House in Washington, D.C., back during the presidency of Lyndon Johnson in the early 1960s. So those would be three examples I could give you right off the top of my head.
Okay, caller, I've got you muted for the second. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, the second one's kind of speculative. I've been hearing a lot of talk about volcanism becoming an issue in the future from sources like Half Past Human, etc. And I'm wondering if problems with tectonics could pose a threat to these bases.
Yes, they might. I mean, if a volcano erupts through your base, I guess you're toast, aren't you? But my understanding from reading the civil engineering literature is that all else being equal, a well-designed and constructed underground facility in competent rock can actually be safer in an earthquake environment than being on the surface of the ground. The reason being that when the seismic waves pass through the ground or through the rock, when they come to the underground installation, they are immediately severely attenuated and disappear